All right, we have a gift for you guys. Our pre-buy inspections are super thorough. So today, what we're gonna do is a pre-buy inspection on a G36. You may have seen this in one of our other videos. We drove around, we looked at it and marveled at the glorious nature of a Japanese import and how cool this thing is. Well, let's take a peek under the hood so we know exactly what we're getting to. Yes, I'm giving you this for free. Normally we do charge for a pre-buy inspection or post-purchase inspection, but we're gonna go through the whole truck and let you know what we find. So for starters, we've all seen underneath the hood, AMG 36. This is the M104 3.6 liter straight six. This engine is glorious. It makes a ton of power. It's super reliable. You can run these things till the day is long. As long as it's got oil and coolant in it, it'll never blow up. We love these things. Some of the things we want to look at is all the fluids. Make sure, does it have fluid? Is it fresh? Is it clean? So with that, you're going to want to grab yourself a rag and just start with the oil, start with the coolant. Fortunately, it's not hot, so I can do this without burning myself. Oil is nice and clear, like baby oil. That's always a great sign, being as this thing's been driven around a little bit, but we have not done an oil change on this, by the way. So that's a pretty good testament right there. That looks fantastic. Also worth noting, coolant is full and it is the correct color. Yep, looks fine there, no big deal. One of the other things you always want to look for is brake fluid. .4 high temperature fluid is what you run in these. You look at brake fluid and you're going to look at differential lock fluid. Normally I use a tester on this, but I can already tell you it's a little bit discolored, so it's been sitting for a while. It needs a brake flush. Anytime you can't see through it and it looks a little murky, just flush it, not a big deal. Whoever buys this, we're certainly happy to take care of that for you. As a courtesy, diff lock fluid is full, same thing. Usually if we do the brake fluid service, we'll do the diff lock fluid service at the same time. We run those together. Now, other things you want to visually check on are your power steering fluid. It's in this funky looking cap right here. And by the way, this is applicable if anyone else has an older G Wagon that has the M104 or the 103 motor. This is how you check your power steering fluid. You have that fun little cap, don't lose it. Pull this off, and it's red, and it should be full. It is full, so we're good there. If it's brown, glittery, or empty, then you got issues, so it's a good sign. I know it's basic, I know it's easy, but just start with the low-hanging fruit and work your way up from there. Aside from that, you're gonna see that we have a belt here. Let's take a look at that. I'll get a flashlight on it. But before we do that, let's make sure we get everything nice and tight. So grab yourself a handy dandy flashlight, and we see that the belt's been on there a while. It's still what I would call serviceable, as it's not cracked or frayed, but you can definitely see some wear marks where it's been sitting for a while. So this is one where if you are gonna press this into service and start putting some miles on it, as a precaution, preventative nature, I would certainly go ahead and address the drive belt. Now, one of the other things we want to take a look at here are our hoses. And being as this is, I'm doing the math now, a 30-year-old vehicle, we're gonna have some stuff that's starting to sweat. And this is what we see is really common. If you can see this down here, this power steering line, where it's wet, but it's not dripping. This is what we call a class 1, where you're not technically dripping anything, it's just oozing or sweating a little bit. This is a great time to do this. That's actually on the return line. It's a non-pressurized line. It's part of the suction system. And that's a really easy fix. This happens over time just because they swell up and they cause issues. All the hoses on this motor are all original, so expect to, if you're gonna go through a full restoration, to go ahead and do all the hoses on this. We actually have sold packages in the past that support every single coolant line on these motors just because they are serviceable. So quick visual of the top side. I will preface, I do know that this truck does have one issue, and we are squaring it away right after this. It's getting a new water pump. We know it's starting to sweat, so we're just gonna go ahead and square that away while we got it. But aside from that, you wanna look at other areas where it may be wet. Obviously over here on this side, we've got your air filter, and it's got all these fun clips. And you wanna be really careful with this kind of stuff because it's a little on the brittle side as it ages. So take your time, open everything up. You've got one back here too. And it'll just lift right off. Now, the cool thing about this when you're working with Mercedes is if you need something, it doesn't look too bad. There's not a lot of dust in there. You can kind of pull the pleats apart and do a visual. It looks like it's been checked a couple of times due to all the paw prints. But if you need one and you can't find it, you can simply just punch that number in. That's your part number for it. Mercedes is really good about putting part numbers on everything that is a genuine Mercedes part. So it makes finding parts pretty easily. Yes, we're gonna go ahead and square this away. It needs a new one. It's easy to do, and it's right there. So while we got this up, it gives us a better visual on the valve cover. And by and large, it looks pretty dry. We got a little bit of moisture up front. Looks like it's just been setting for a while. It's not super severe. We can dive into that a little more though, as we take it up in the air. Now, as we're doing this, it's important to latch everything the way you found it and not leave it open. Because the last thing you're gonna do, you're gonna get distracted, you're gonna get pulled away for this and forget to shut the airbox and breathe in all those dead bugs and all that junk. So aside from that, I'm gonna address this back here, is this thing. This is the fresh air intake for your HVAC system. And no, there is no filter on top of this. It's meant to be open. So just to answer that question out there, I do get questions asking, where can I get the filter for this? Technically, there's not one. Now, there's some people in the aftermarket that have made filters for that, but technically one doesn't exist. So, just so you know. Aside from that, now that we have it up in the air, we're gonna take it up just a little further and do a quick differential lock check. So really, I just wanna make sure all the wheels are off the ground. And this is one of those things I like to do in the shop because there's no stress on the system. I can play with it, I can manipulate it, we can see what's working and what's not. So to do that, I simply fire it up. And I'm gonna go ahead and hit my differential locks right now. Foot on the brake, I'm gonna go ahead and start rolling forward, and immediately all three of them locked in. So right now I have all three diff locks locked in. It happened immediately. And this is a really easy way to check it. If you ever get to a point where you find that one is not locking in, you can play with it while it's on the rack and try to manipulate it, but the system worked flawlessly. So that's really good to see. I like that. So aside from that, that's the one check I like to do before I go up. That tells me if I have any leaks or anything else going on. And immediately, now that it's shut off, everything's released, everything's relaxed, and we're back in business. So we're gonna go up a little bit more. Initially, now that we have this thing up at eye level, we're gonna do a quick shakedown and make sure everything is actually tight on the front end. What that involves, what we're looking for is tie rod ends and kingpin bearings and wheel bearings. Just make sure we don't have any play. If we do have play, that's something that definitely needs to be addressed. But we always do this with the steering wheel unlocked. We go back and forth. We go up and down. And I do it slow just to make sure that you put enough force on everything. And I have zero play, so that's really good. Same goes over here. Left to right. Up and down, and there's nothing there. It also gives you a bird's eye, I'm sorry, it's right at your lion's eye sight to take a look at the suspension. As you see, we have the VIN number on the frame. And for an educational purpose, I'll say that every G Wagon has a VIN number stamped onto the frame right here. Every G Wagon that was a 460 or 463. The 463As are actually in front of the wheel, but every single one has them back here. So if you ever get in a pinch and like, I need to verify a VIN, this is exactly where they are. So just so you know. One of the things that's really impressed me about this vehicle is I don't see rust, corrosion, or a lot of stuff flying everywhere. For instance, I can see the spring and the shocks in here, and it is all original stuff. And this is a very, very clean example. It's not full of pits and corrosion. You can also look at the underside and see if you have any other issues on the paint as you work your way around. I always like to look inside of here at the coolers to make sure I don't have anything going on in there. And overall, it is very clean. Same goes for this side. I don't see any rust. I don't see any corrosion. It looks like the frame's been blasted and cleaned at some point in time, but typically we start seeing corrosion up in this area. And I'll grab a flashlight so y'all can see that. Typically where these mounts are, we'll start seeing a lot of corrosion, but man, this is a really nice example. All original stuff. So let's go on the back side. So on the back side, it's a little bit different situation back here. We don't necessarily have any joints that move, but it's always a good idea to grab everything, just make sure it is tight. Even though it is a through axle, if you do have a bad wheel bearing, it will move around a little bit. It's a drum brake system. This truck stops exceptionally well, and I can already feel there's a little bit of drag on there, so they are adjusted correctly. Again, I don't see any rust corrosion. The most common areas for rust and corrosion on any G Wagon, not just an older one, is going to be this area back here, the spring perch and the shock mounts. Back in here, this area tends to be very, very susceptible to rust and corrosion. So no matter if you're shopping for an old truck or a new truck, this is an area you want to pay really special attention to. And even if you do see a lot of rust and corrosion back there, there are ways to fix it. We actually do buy those pieces straight from Mercedes, and we can fix that. We just cut it off and weld new stuff on there. The other areas you want to look for are the back of the truck. On the underside, I know we talked about opening up the tailgate, but here we can see the paint is still shiny underneath, so there's nothing going on. And while we're here, and it's easier to see with it up in the air, we have our, well, that's been glued in. No, it hasn't. That is nice. That is really nice, folks. That is as clean and as fresh as it's ever going to get. So take advantage of this while you can. Let's get this into somebody's home. The nice part about a truck like this is you don't have to spend a whole lot of money restoring it or bringing it up to speed because it's already where it needs to be. There's always going to be little things that make your life a little nicer to drive. A suspension upgrade is pretty common, fully expected because stuff wears out. But paint cosmetically, we just don't see it on this, and it's very, very clean. It does still have the original exhaust on it. This is one of those things you want to look for. This is actually the heat shielding for the exhaust. The piping is still intact, but the heat shielding is a little loose. I wouldn't necessarily get so excited about this if you can get a good visual on it. We can probably cut this off. We do remake a lot of exhausts from scratch, and we do it all with TIG welded stainless steel, and it looks like jewelry when we're done, so our stuff is better. Aside from that, still no issues over here. I can still see the markings on the spring, so nice looking truck. All right, let's go up with it some more and let's see what else we find. Okay, so now that we have this thing up in the air, we're gonna look on the underside. Now, bear in mind, this is a 30-year-old vehicle, so there's a couple things that aren't gonna look so pretty, full transparency. But as we see, it's wet. Starting with the swivel balls, we definitely have a little bit of seepage coming through here. I suspect these have not been opened up, being as I don't see any tool marks on these. So just due to age and time and mileage, I would recommend doing a front swivel ball or front axle service on this truck. It's definitely due by time. They all need it at some point or another. Just know you've got that coming down the pipeline going into it. Not the end of the world. But the fact that I don't see any rust, corrosion, and we still have fluid coming out of it, which is, it's telling me that it's still full of fluid. It tells me everything I need to know. I don't think anything's wrong. It's just the fluid breaks down over time, so it's going to get past the scupper seal. The other thing I did note, and I will say this, the truck does need a water pump. We did catch that. If you look up underneath here, we've got a little bit of coolant coming down and leaking on the oil pan, and it looks like we've got the front of the valve cover gasket is a little wet on this. So at first glance, it looks like a wet, oily mess, but in all actuality, it's not that bad. If you come back here and you look up at the motor, we can see up the very, very tippy top, the corners of the valve cover are a little wet, and that's what we call a really, really super easy fix. The valve covers on these motors are actually made out of magnesium, and the head is actually aluminum. Magnesium is a very lightweight material. It dissipates heat great, but it's also one of the few metals that moves quite a bit. In other words, it changes its shape dramatically based on the amount of heat it's got. So they are susceptible over time. The rubber gaskets do break down. So here's what I would do with this truck. Steering components look great. A front axle service would be one of those things to get it into service. Reseal the valve cover. We're gonna go ahead and do the water pump on it right now before it goes out the door. And man, overall this thing is great. I mean, look at the frame. We have no issues whatsoever. Everything is rust-free, corrosion-free all the way back. We still have the catalytic converters on it, by the way. So those of you that do have to register this in New York, California, or an emissions compliant state, you're 100% set up to do so. And yeah, and you still have the factory muffler over here too. That's a legit factory AMG muffler as well. Now it's not really all that loud, but it's there. Now the other thing, because this vehicle's been kept inside and it's so few miles, even the suspension bushings are still somewhat pliable moving around. They're not blown out, they're not completely torn, which is pretty rare on a truck of this age. Even the transfer case mounts are still intact. Man, all the rubber appears to be in good shape overall. So one of the things we like to do is check the drive shafts. If we have any play whatsoever up, down, side to side, these are serviceable. And I can tell you I've had this at highway speeds and it's nice and smooth, but I'm not expecting anything. So we will go through and lubricate everything and grease it. The front drive shaft as well. I've got nothing, everything's tight. So we're good there. So overall, there's not a whole lot going on underneath this truck other than it's just an interesting place to look at if you've never seen the other side of one. Again, this is an M104, it's a straight 6. It does have a couple wet spots up on the motor. It's not something I would get really super excited about, but they're pretty easy to service. That's an easy fix. We'll take care of the water pump. The fuel filter is up underneath here. It does look like it's been replaced very recently. It's got a date on it, so that it is not original. So that has been serviced. That's great. But overall, this is a nice vehicle on the underside. So now that you've seen it, I will also say the brakes are one of the things I did not talk about yet. They are, for lack of better words, they're like 80%. I'm looking at them right now. They're kind of hard to see off camera, but we have a ton of pad life left on the front. The rears are well adjusted, so the truck does stop and handle the way it should. So now we know. Let's take one look underneath the back of the truck. Come around here with me. And some of you keen eye viewers may note that we still have both of our mud flaps. Yes, there's a lot of trucks that go out the door missing mud flaps. It still has them, miraculously. So underneath here, this is an area that you want to see, and this is hard to see unless you have it up in the air. These bumper mounts, this back of the frame, this area is really, really super clean. This is a really common area that catches a lot of water and will rust and corrode over time and cause you a lot of headache and grief. But again, it needs nothing. It is perfect, so don't mess with it. You can put some Cosplane on there, or you can hit it with some fluid film if you desire, but by and large, just know that whoever gets this vehicle is getting something that is clean, does not need any rust or corrosion preventative maintenance or service, and really just take care of the routine services and put fluids in this thing and drive it. That's what it's meant for. So I'm gonna go back down with it. Okay, so now that we got it back on the ground, we're gonna go through a couple things on the inside. And I'll preface with, this is a very, very good example, but this is really common stuff you wanna look for on a vehicle of this age. So first thing I wanna say is this thing shuts great. So what we've got here are, we always wanna look at the door seals and make sure that they're still pliable. These are all original. They're not torn. They still have life left in them. I probably would not be running this through rainstorms or snowstorms until you replace them, because they're 30 years old, but they've been inside. So really good things. One of the things I do want to show you though, and this is really, really common, is the door bellows. So there's these goofy rubber pockets here, these guys, and every G Wagon from 1990 to 2018 uses the same part, and they always get dry and brittle and crack. And its sole function is to act as a waterproof conduit for the wiring for the door to go from the door to the body and vice versa. We keep these in stock. It happens all the time. They're pretty cheap. So this is, I'm not trying to show a perfect truck here. I'm trying to show a realistic truck. And that's an example of something that, yeah, it's going to get squared away. It's an easy one. Aside from that, one thing I do want to note is when you're in one of these early vehicles, you always want to look at the door handles and be very, very careful of this. Everyone has a tendency to grab the handle here and pull the door shut. And I know there's some people watching this right now just like, ugh, don't do it. Don't pull, because they know that there's a weak spot here and this will simply pull and break off. This one's still intact. Hallelujah. So always grab your door handle here, not here. Just do yourself a favor. It'll make it last 10 times longer. You can still buy these handles for now, but just make a habit of grabbing it here and you won't worry about breaking that. Also, we still have all the wood trim that's intact. Those of you that have these trucks know that this piece disappears, this piece breaks, and these door pockets break. And for any of you who have been my clients or customers or called me recently, you've recently found out that these door pockets are no longer available by Mercedes. How much does that suck? So if you want one, you have to call me and we make them in-house. Now, the other thing, take a look at the steering wheel. It's not frayed, it's not cracked. There's no cracks in the lacquer on the steering wheel, so that's really, really nice. Also, we still have all the lettering on this. This fun little panel is no longer available. You can see where it's starting to fade. So obviously it's been left it's been inside. Overall, very, very clean and nice vehicle. The seat, the leather is soft, it's still pliable. The carpet, you can see where someone's driven it with their heel. But most importantly, all the functions of the seat work. Nothing is weird. Even the headrest goes up and down, so don't see that very often. The mechanism for these short wheelbases, it just has a mechanism here that pulls it up, and the back seat is a very nice place to be. So, and with that, the passenger seat is also equally, it's arguably better conditioned than the driver's seat. And again, everything works. And this goes. Now, on these older vehicles, one thing you do want to pay attention to is the armrests. Make sure that they stop. Otherwise, there's a plastic piece in here that breaks, and these are really, really spendy. But you have to push the button to get to go down. So that works very, very well. Happy with that. So again, this has a very similar type of mechanism. Just goes forward like that. And the back seat looks like no one's really sat in it. Uh-oh, hair tie. Anyway, other than that, no one sat in it. So the carpet's still in good shape, seats are in good shape. Even the headliner looks like it's in great shape. So going up through here, here's the final test. Everyone wants to know, does the sunroof actually work? Let's find out. Nothing gets my heart racing like a sunroof that's questionable. So far, so good. Actually, while it's open, I like to poke my head up here and take a look at how the gasket looks. And it's largely like a door gasket, but it's felt lined. And this is kind of dry. So again, if you're gonna run it out and put it in questionable environments, I would definitely get it replaced. They still stock these, so the same as the 2018 model year. So everything works, everything looks good. So let's shut it. Should go fairly smooth. I'm impressed. Look at that. That's great. Oh man, love it. Cool. Man, even the vanity lights work. Okay, so other than that, there's not a whole lot to look at inside this vehicle. I mean, you've already seen the inside. The dash is great, the wood's great, there's no cracks, there's no failing points. Everything is perfectly functional and everything works exceptionally well. So, hope this was helpful to you. Just wanted to take a chance to go through this vehicle as a preliminary pre-purchase to help clarify any issues and offer a sense of transparency to whoever the potential buyer may be for this glorious vehicle. Thanks for watching. Joe Gocher, Alliance Auto Care. Nothing but G's, lots more to follow. Hit like and subscribe.